My bearded dragon Diamond needs a brand new home, so when Chewy and Snake Discovery teamed up to send me this bad boy here, I want to show you how to make a bearded dragon enclosure that'll last its entire life for under a few $100. Building a reptile enclosure in general is pretty darn easy if you want it to be. Now, there are the Brad's Bioactive builds out there, and I love watching those and making my own custom enclosures that are elaborate and take days and days or months and months or even years. But if you just want an enclosure for your bearded dragon that he's gonna be happy with, I recommend buying a 4x2x2 and setting it up exactly like I'm gonna show you right now. First of all, get your materials. This is the easy part, collecting all the stuff. There is a link below where I have a bearded dragon checklist, basically, of all the things you can buy. But in this video, I'm gonna show you a bunch of stuff I found from outside and sanitized just to keep the cost down, because we're trying to make it as cheap as possible and as quick as possible so that your bearded dragon has a home rather than a project in your living room for 6 months at a time. The first thing I like to do is put the lighting on the enclosure, because that way I can actually see inside of it. It makes it look nicer for me to actually visualize, and for you so you can see. So turn the lighting on. What I choose for these, if it's a longer build, like a 4x2x2, is a UVB that's linear. So an Arcadia T5 is what I like to use. And actually, when you buy this enclosure on Chewy, the T5s are 50% off. So get yourself a T5. T5 is just the size of the bulb. I use a 12% UVB. And then for the basking bulb, I like to use a Fluker's basking bulb. The brand you use for each of these is inconsequential. I just prefer these because they're the ones that work best for me. With your lighting on, I recommend siliconing the enclosure. You definitely don't have to for an arid species or more arid species like a bearded dragon. Although the more we learn, the more we realize bearded dragons actually like a lot more humidity than we once thought. Updated care guide coming soon if you want to see it. For this one, I'm not going to silicone it because it's not going to get wet enough that it's going to matter. I should mention too, if you like the CFL bulbs, like the coil ones, those work really well too if you get a Fluker's UVB. I just prefer those for taller enclosures where a linear UVB works better for longer enclosures. It just provides more space of UVB light. You're trying to replicate the sun. The sun isn't pinpointed, the sun is everywhere all the time, unless you're in the shade. First, put your substrate in. There's a bunch of different ones that you can use here. You can buy pre-mixed ones, you can buy bagged ones on Chewy or your local reptile store, wherever, but what I prefer to use are things that are cheaper and easier to source. Play sand, organic topsoil, and sometimes organic coconut coir. And all I do is I just take them, I throw them in there, and I mix them up. Kind of an even mix. You don't have to use the coconut coir. Using just regular soil, but make sure that it's an organic soil, doesn't have pesticides, and an organic play sand, but make sure you use play sand. If you use a sand for building, those granules will bunch up, and that's what causes impaction. The amount of adult bearded dragons that are going to become impacted from this soil mixture that I'm showing you is approximately 0.00001. I asked an exotic vet once who runs the busiest emergency clinic in this country, how many bearded dragons have you ever seen come in with impaction? And the answer in 10 years was 0. Just use the right substrate, and this is what I like to use. Putting your substrate in, just mix it around so it kind of looks like this when you're finished. Don't put too much time and effort into it. You're gonna be digging it around and moving it around if you plant plants like we're gonna show you, or putting hides or sticks or whatever. After your substrate's in, you have to give this animal things to climb and things to do and things to hide behind. Like every animal, he's not going to want to be out all the time. He's going to want to hide not only from you or anything else in the room, but he's going to want to hide from the UVB and the basking bulb too. You're obviously creating a gradient with the lighting, so warm side, cool side, meaning you put your hot basking bulb on one side. That's going to create the ambient temperature being warmer on that side, and then the cool side will be cooler where the basking bulb isn't. I always recommend 2 hides at least, one on the cool side and one on the warm side. That way, if he wants to be hidden, he can still choose what temperature he wants to be too. You can do 2 different ones, or what I've done is I've got this really big, long piece of cork, and I put it in kind of close to the back so we've got room up front to decorate it, and then it kind of spans the entire thing. So if he wants to be on the warm side, there's an end on the warm side. If he wants to be cool, he has one on the cool side. You can use a bunch of different things for this. It doesn't have to be cork. Are you trying to get in your own enclosure already? Ooh, you almost fell. Or you can use turned over bowls from the dollar store, or you can go onto my shopping list on Chewy and buy stuff there. It really doesn't matter as long as it's doing the objective, which is being able to hide your animal. Something I love about these New Age Pet EcoFlex enclosures is they go together at about a heartbeat and a half. They're the easiest enclosure to put together I have ever used, and they are far better quality than the other ones in the same price bracket, and I mean not even close. And they're easy to buy. On Chewy right now, they're $2.59, and we'll give you another $20 off if you use the code Snake Discovery. Thanks Chewy for sponsoring today's video. And now I'm going to show you why they're perfect for bearded dragons. For climbing and enrichment, what I prefer to use is sticks. Literally just logs that I find in the woods. Now, word of caution here, don't go just to a random park that you don't know if they spray pesticides. The best way to do this is to go to something like a nature preserve, somewhere where they can't spray pesticides because it's illegal and no one would benefit from doing it. Of course, make sure it's legal to do this where you are and at that nature reserve or wherever you are, and always pick up dead limbs. Don't chop down trees that are still living in nature. Even so, then take your sticks home or your logs and rinse them down with water. You can even use a Dawn dish soap. What I like to do is, because I live in Canada, I leave them outside and they freeze, so anything inside of them dies. And I spray them off anyway. Then cut them into the pieces that you want to use and arrange them inside your enclosure so that they don't fall down. You can even drill from the side of your enclosure if it's wood or PVC. Don't do this if it's glass. Don't do this. Which I do with a lot of my builds so that the bricks and sticks don't fall over the place. Or you can tension fit them, and I like to use bricks for this, so I'll literally jam a brick in between the wall and the butt of the stump or the butt of the branch, and that way it can't move even if I want it to move. For this one, I did a big diagonal piece where it kind of goes up towards the light. This is his basking spot. This is where it's gonna get the hottest. And then a lower one going the opposite direction. I always like to give my animals multiple basking sites because some bearded dragons want it to be 115 where they bask. Some of them want it to be 100 where they bask, or sometimes they just change their mind day to day. And that's why I give them multiple options. I also put a brick down below because it'll catch heat, and then when the lights go off at night, it'll retain that heat so that the animal can sit on it if he wants to. Although I never see them do this, some of them do. Now's your opportunity. Do you want it to be bioactive or not? Bioactive just means that the waste that the animal produces is going to be broken down by a cleanup crew. Now, you'll still have to spot clean. I know I do for animals this big, but I like to make it bioactive. To do this, you have to add plants. Plants break down the waste of the animal, or the little critters that break down the waste of your animal, the feature inside of your enclosure. Don't plant some sort of high humidity needing philodendron or something inside of an enclosure like this. If it's for a bearded dragon, use things like Echeveria or the chickens and hens, or there's a bunch of different succulents that you can use. I wouldn't recommend cactus that are gonna need it really dry and also be too spiky for your animal, but something that's going to deal with the humidity of the spikes, because you're gonna wanna give them a little bit of a spike sometimes at night. Watering these plants, this is totally normal. In the wild, bearded dragons are often found in burrows that are 90% humidity, although you don't want their average humidity to be 90%. These are an Echeveria species, or like a chicken and head type of species. They work really well for me. The issue is sometimes the crickets will start to eat them, so just don't overfeed your animal and let the crickets just run wild, because they'll eat your plants. And then for the cleanup crew, I just like to use a different sort of isopod. It doesn't really matter. I mean, don't pick one that needs super high humidity, although you will have lots of humid areas, especially adding bricks where the humidity is going to stay really, really strong down below it. And this is where your cleanup crew is likely going to be hiding. This works with all sorts of desert dwelling species, or species that are known to be desert dwelling. Leopard geckos, Ackie monitors, this is how I do it. So you can decorate it kind of however you like, just make sure they have a hide and make sure that everything is secure so it's not gonna fall down and hurt your dragon or whatever animal you make your enclosure for. Next, a food dish and a water dish. Now, most people will tell you that if they're experts on bearded dragons, you don't really need a water dish for a bearded dragon. I prefer to give it just because I think that every animal should have standing water if they're known to ever really drink it. Although bearded dragons get almost all of their water requirements from the food that they eat and from water droplets, I still like to give them standing water. You can use a Tupperware container or something that looks more naturalistic, like this one here from Universal Rocks. And for a food dish, same thing. You can use a plate, like a children's plastic plate, easy to clean, or you can use something more naturalistic. Hilariously, this is the very first dish I ever bought for a bearded dragon in like 2007 or 8. I still have it. It still works. You don't need to buy new ones all the time. You don't need it to be fancy. You can make it way fancier. You can make them a lot taller because these animals, in my opinion, it would probably benefit from a 4-foot by 4-foot enclosure. So maybe in our next Chewy video, they'll send me one and I'll show you how to do that too. But with bearded dragons like Diamond, who are kind of old and don't really climb as much as they used to, I think lower enclosures are beneficial because there's not as much room for them to fall down. Diamond is still strong, he's still good, he still eats really well, but he's definitely not as nimble as he once was. I don't want to make an enclosure too tall for a bearded dragon that's kind of in his golden years. Now is the fun part. Now put your animal inside of the enclosure and see how they react. Maybe feed them some crickets or dubias or whatever you want to feed them. And the fun part about the first week is it's new to them. So they're going to be exploring a lot more than normal. They don't know where their favorite basket... That was not planned. We did not script that. They don't know where their favorite basking spot is yet. They're still figuring out. And this is where you're going to figure out the best ways to change the enclosure. Because now that it's made, it's not, and you're done. You have to make sure that these animals are happy, they're using the right parameters, and of course, cycle, I guess, this setup for about a week to make sure the temperature and the humidity is perfect. Of course, Diamond isn't going in this enclosure right now. This is just for the video. He has an enclosure downstairs he'll be in while I monitor this enclosure to make sure that it's perfect for a bearded dragon. Although I have set up a 4x2x2 for a bearded dragon on this channel at least 12 times, it's still good to make sure you're doing it right. Don't get complacent with your animals, even if you think you're an expert or have been doing it a long time. Still go back to the basics because that's how you don't make mistakes. Let me know in the comment section below how you set up your bearded dragons or other animals. Do you like the 4x2x2 enclosures? Do you like other sizes? All of that in the comment section below. Because we do videos Mondays and Thursdays, that means I'll see you in the next one.